Men and women of Hancock Field Air National Guard, help me in welcoming tail number 08038 to the unit. April 5th, 2009 will go down in history as a significant milestone in this wing's proud history. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put your hands together and make some noise as we welcome the newest member of our Hancock Field family, the MQ-9 Reaper!
October 28, 1947, 1 year after the first Air National Guard organizational meeting in downtown Syracuse, the 138th Fighter Squadron was federally recognized. A small group, 16 officers and 35 enlisted men, all World War II veterans. No planes, no ground support equipment, no base, just a strong desire to serve their country. March 8, 1948, the first aircrafts arrive at Hancock Field. 4 P-47 Thunderbolts would be the start of the unit's flying operations.
The P-47s coming in, that was heaven. Finally having a piece of the action that was going to be here, that was going to be with us for a while.
The P-47 was the heaviest single-engine World War II fighter and the first piston-powered fighter to exceed 500 miles per hour. The Thunderbolt was a highly versatile aircraft and is considered the real forerunner of today's multi-role fighters. With the unit only 2 years old, the 138th Fighter Squadron would be the first unit in the state to receive the F-84B Thunderjet. A turbojet fighter-bomber aircraft, the Thunderjet became the Air Force's primary strike aircraft during the Korean War. The F-84 was the first fighter aircraft to utilize in-flight refueling and the first fighter capable of carrying a nuclear weapon. Runways were lengthened for the new aircraft, and construction would become a part of everyday life on Hancock Field.
With the number of conversions that we've always had construction that came with it.
In November of 1950, the Air Force placed the Thunderjets back into active inventory for use in the Korean War, and the 174th Fighter Wing would see the start of many conversions to come. With the departure of the Thunderjets, the unit began the transition to the F-51 Mustang. A long-range fighter, the Mustang was fast, well-made, and a highly durable aircraft. The Mustang flew most of its wartime missions as a bomber escort in raids over Germany and began the Korean War as the United Nations' main fighter. In 1954, the unit converted to the Lockheed F-94 Starfighter. The Starfighter was the Air Force's first operational jet-powered all-weather Inceptor aircraft. The unit began a secret mission to see if the Air National Guard could perform air defense missions for the Air Force. Aircraft and ground crews were placed on a 5-minute runway alert from dusk to dawn. The results were so successful that air defense became a permanent mission for the Air National Guard. In December of 1957, the unit converted to the F-86 Saberjet. The Saberjet was a transonic jet fighter aircraft with 20mm cannons and the capability of carrying droppable fuel tanks or 500-pound bombs. The Air Force Association designated the 138th as the best F-86 unit in the country. 1961, the Berlin Crisis. A controversy so bitter and so sustained, world leaders feared a misstep could trigger a nuclear war. As East and West Germany argued over the status of Berlin, more than 1,000 members from Syracuse deployed to Felsberg Air Force Base in France and Sembach Air Base in Germany. This was the largest single deployment of fighter aircraft from the US to Europe since World War II. The Saberjets flew ground support missions for combat forces of the 7th US Army. The rapid deployment and smooth integration of Guardsmen into existing operations provided dramatic proof that American reserve forces were ready for anything. By April, the Russian planes backed down from German skies, and tensions in Berlin eased. The Berlin Wall and its problems remained for another 27 years, but the immediate crisis had been averted. January 23rd, 1968. North Korea captures the USS Pueblo and its 82-man crew are taken hostage. In response, President Johnson activates Air National Guard units and the 174th returns to active duty. Commanded by Colonel Curtis Irwin, the 138th and Denver's 140th Tactical Fighter Squadrons are assigned to Cannon Air Force Base, New Mexico. The 138th and their F-86 Sabre jets were used to train the Air Force's forward air controllers who were soon headed to Vietnam. In December, after 11 months of captivity, the hostages were released and unit members returned to Syracuse. The USS Pueblo is still held by North Korea, currently used as a museum ship. The U.S. has not decommissioned the Pueblo, and it remains the only active-duty warship in enemy hands. In March of 1970, the unit received official notification of its newest aircraft, the Cessna A-37B Dragonfly, a low-wing, twin-turbo, jet-powered aircraft used primarily in the Vietnam War. The A-37 was the first unit-acquired aircraft capable of aerial refueling. These capabilities allowed the Dragonfly to remain airborne longer, extending its deployment radius. 1979, a year that brought two big changes to the 174th, transformation from a group to the 174th Tactical Fighter Wing, and the announcement of a new aircraft, the Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II.
Going from the A-37 to the A-10, one of the biggest things was you were sitting on the concrete almost in the A-37. In the A-10, you were like sitting in a second-story building.
They were brand new right out of the factory. They still smelled like a new car.
With superior maneuverability at low speeds, the A-10 provided very effective close air support. In 1981, the 174th Tactical Fighter Wing was the first Air National Guard unit to deploy to Germany under Operation Cornet Sail.
The orchestration that goes into taking a group of airplanes across the pond like that, with 6 or 8 different refuelings and adhering to the time schedules and then the arrival at the German base. There's a lot of details involved, but it really went well.
The decade from the later 70s to the later 80s brought a lot of really significant change and challenges. Not so much in airplanes, because that was pretty much the time of the A-10. But the A-37 really didn't deploy overseas. All of a sudden, we're flying nonstop 12 hours. The Air Force is expecting us to be a part of the total force.
The time when we had the A-10 was a transition for the unit, in my opinion. We took them out of that strategic reserve role and really prepped the total unit for day-to-day operational involvement with the Air Force.
The unit returned there in 1984 as part of Operation Cornet Giant. After returning from Germany, the 174th participated in Cornet Cove in Panama and Gold Rush in Alaska. For the first time in the wing's history, the aircraft flew long distance without navigation help from other aircraft. March 1989. The 174th says goodbye to its A-10 Thunderbolts and unveils its newest aircraft, the F-16 Fighting Falcon. A single-engine, supersonic, multi-role tactical aircraft, the F-16 can perform various missions and maintain around-the-clock readiness. The 174th Fighter Wing's newest aircraft was built for combat, and it wouldn't be long before it would see just that. August 2nd, 1990. Saddam Hussein orders the invasion of Kuwait. President Bush vows to defend the region, and the 174th starts preparing for war. Operation Desert Shield is initiated.
At my direction, elements of the 82nd Airborne Division, as well as key units of the United States Air Force, are arriving today to take up defensive positions in Saudi Arabia.
On January 16th, coalition forces, including the 174th Fighter Wing, begin bombing Kuwait. 24 hours a day bombing the Iraqi forces for more than 5 weeks. On February 28th, after only 100 hours of ground combat, the fighting was over. By the end of July, close to 400 unit members have returned back to Syracuse safely.
The tenor of the Gulf War has driven the motivation, the atmosphere of the unit since that time, because now it was no longer just practicing for something, it was the actual reality of combat.
Through the 90s, the 174th continued its involvement in various real-world missions. A command structure adjustment would change the unit's name from the 174th Tactical Fighter Wing to the 174th Fighter Wing. The unit's F-16s also saw 3 block changes. The training of personnel and maintaining aircraft and equipment would prepare the 174th for the events to unfold early in the 21st century. September 11th, 2001.
Nice clear sunny day here. I was on the telephone talking to General Barbarian, who was my boss at the time. We were in the middle of the call, and he said, "I've got to hang up. I've got to food the World Trade Center." Turn on the TV, every channel, footage of the World Trade Center. And while we were talking, one of them in that group was standing around watching, said, "I just saw another airplane." So I was like, right there, everybody kind of stopped.
The attacks on U.S. soil on September 11, 2001 would forever change the world we live in. The United States military, specifically the Air National Guard, would see a dramatic shift in their operational tempo. The 174th Fighter Wing would deploy the Wing's aviation package in support of Operation Noble Eagle, Enduring Freedom, and Iraqi Freedom, as well as having members deploy worldwide in support of these operations.
We pretty much have people gone and deployed out of here every day.
Central New York has been extremely supportive of the 174th throughout its history.
It's amazing when they first come out here, they look at this place, they go, this is really probably no other place in the country has the Army Reserve, the Navy Reserve, the Marine Reserve, the Army National Guard, all within 1 mile of each other.
Everybody is gearing up towards the future and what it's going to take, and a lot of folks know they're going off to school, but they're still doing the old job.
The size of this conversion, this is about as big a conversion as you can get and still be flying.
Where we are today is part of a continuum that goes back to 1947.
We're doing a mission now that's leading edge technology, which sets us up for the next leading edge technology mission.
Whatever mission you get, you got to go full bore,